Our vision is to be the go-to source and be a household name for midterm rentals. Like right now, if you asked anybody, where would you go for a stay 30 days or longer? If you were looking to go somewhere this winter and stay there for 3 months, where are you going to look? And nobody really has a clear answer to that. They're like, I might check out Airbnb or something. But people that aren't familiar with the space, they've never heard of Furnished Finder. So
Mhm.
becoming a household name, I think is really important. And for long-term vision, yeah, I want to steal all of Airbnb's and Furnished Finder's market share. That's the long-term vision. And I think we have the ability to do that because there's nobody that's really implementing everything that hosts and guests want to see in the space. And I feel like we're doing a really good job at doing that.
Yeah, I like that you're taking in the guest perspective too, right? Welcome to the She's Got Assets Real Estate Investment Podcast. I'm the host, Shona Lepis. Follow along as we unpack and demystify real estate investment strategies through expert interviews and personal experience. From how to find off market deals to creative financing to long term and midterm rentals, we aim to educate and inspire others to gain financial freedom and generational wealth through real estate. And as always, please subscribe so you never miss an episode. We really appreciate reviews, it helps others find us and it just helps us get found. All right, we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to She's Got Assets podcast. I'm Shona, the host, and I have a special guest today, Jon Wolf. He is the founder of ManyStays, really exciting new midterm platform. So, John, I'd love to have introduce yourself, a little bit about your background and about ManyStays. Let's dive in.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. Again, my name is Jon Wolf. I'm the founder and CEO of MiniStays. A little bit about my background. I've been investing in real estate for about 10 years now. I bought my first duplex when I was 22. Didn't really know anything about real estate at the time. People around me said it was probably not the best idea. I had no real estate background whatsoever, but I felt like I did enough research where I moved forward, bought my first duplex when I was 22, did the whole house hack thing, lived on one side and rented out the other. And then I played football in college. So I spent the next 3 years or so pursuing a career in the NFL. Ultimately, that ended up not working out the way I had hoped or planned, but I always knew I was going to get back into real estate full time once that was done. So when football was officially done, I got back into real estate. I became a realtor. And over the last about 6 years or so, I became a top 2% realtor in the country, as well as building a multi-million dollar real estate portfolio. And about 3 years ago is when I heard about midterm rentals. I was actually dealing with a pretty bad long-term tenant, and I had to unfortunately go through the eviction process. She had completely trashed the units. It was in pretty rough shape. So I was like at the point of, do I sell this place? Do I turn it into an Airbnb and try that? But here in Minneapolis, they have a lot of restrictions around Airbnbs. You can only have one Airbnb in Minneapolis, and there's a huge, long permit process. So I just didn't feel like that was really worth it to get one Airbnb. And then somebody thankfully had told me about midterm rentals and travel nurses, and that sounded interesting to me. So I didn't really know where to start. Somebody told me about Furnished Finder. So obviously everybody knows about Airbnb, but I listed on Furnished Finder and Airbnb. And within a week, I had my first tenant. She was a travel nurse. She stayed for 3 months, took amazing care of the property. It was the best thing I've ever done because when she left, it almost looked like she hadn't even been there. And my rent went from $1,800 a month to $2,500 a month. So I was completely sold on midterm rentals. I started converting all of my long term over to midterm, and the rest is history. And so that's where I got my start in real estate. And yeah,
Yeah, I love that. I feel like once you get a taste of midterm, like you don't go back. It's just
right.
like,
They
it's a
take
little
better care of the
addictive.
property. You charge more rent. It's just a win-win all the way around. And I
And the
know some people
Mhm.
say that they do Airbnbs and they make maybe 20 to 50% more than I would on a midterm rental, but the amount of work that you do on an Airbnb doing weekly turnovers versus now I only do a turnover every 3 months. You can't really beat it.
I know, and I think those numbers we hear, they're not taking vacancy into account and all the work and, just the and I think the guests, the level of guests, the, like, communication, even with all the software, it's a whole midterms, I don't hear from them. It's just like they do their thing, they're here to work. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so I think the biggest, like, pain points with midterms are, like, how pricing and advertising, and clearly that's where you come in with mini stays. So what was that light bulb moment you're like, let's do this.
I actually realized the need for a new platform since that first week when I got started because somebody had told me about Furnished Finder. I went on the site and I'm like, this is what people are using? Like from somebody that has no idea what to do or where to list my property and somebody says Furnished Finder is the go-to place, you go on there, it's what? This is what people are using? But within a week, I had my first guest from there. So it was great in that regard. But then being a new host, I didn't know how the whole process worked. So I would ask every guest that came to me and said, hey, what questions am I supposed to be asking you? Do you do a lease agreement? How do you do payments? Do you do a background check? And so I was asking about their experience. And from their side of things, they said, yeah, Furnished Finder's great for finding properties, but there's a lot of times where I have to message 20 or 30 different hosts to one, find availability because they don't auto update their calendars because payments aren't done on the platform. So we have to do those manually, either through Venmo or Zelle. And that can get a little sketchy when you're dealing with people you've never met before, exchanging thousands of dollars. That gets a little sketchy. And then, so there was a lot of frustrations that I heard about from the guest perspective. And then from the host side, it's the same thing. Reservations aren't done on the platform. So it's really hard to track. So even now, to track my reservations, I have Post-it notes on my wall here and it tracks my reservations for me, but it would be nice if they were done like on one platform and I can do everything from one place, like an Airbnb where they have all your reservations and you can extend.
Hey there, savvy investor. Quick question. Are you ready to jump into midterm rentals but not sure where to start? I've got you covered. And She's Got Assets. We help real estate investors set up and fully book their first midterm rental with quality guests so you can double or even triple your cash flow. And here's the kicker. We dive deep into marketing strategies, including how to tap into the lucrative niche of getting insurance leads for displaced families. These are long-term stays that can really boost your bottom line without all the hassle and regulations of short-term rentals. Sound interesting? Head over to she'sgotassets.com/MTR and get all the details. And if you're new to real estate investing, we've got something just for you. Check out our REI Playbook course where we teach you how to snag your first investment property by finding off-market deals without cold calling or door knocking. We'll even walk you through creative deal structures like owner financing and how to leverage what you've already got. You can find all that goodness at she'sgotassets.com/REI. Oh, and one more thing, don't miss out on joining our free She's Got Assets community. We've got a ton of resources plus weekly live streams where you can dive deep into strategies to help you succeed. You don't want to miss it. Trust me. Hop into the community at she'sgotassets.com/network and let's get you crushing those real estate goals. All right, back to the show.
Do cancellation policies and everything from your host dashboard. So that was our goal with ManyStays, was to combine the best features of Furnished Finder and Airbnb to create one platform where you can do everything in one space that's revolved around midterm rentals. So on ManyStays, it's free to list. We focused on it being very user friendly. So when you come to the site, you know exactly what you're looking for. All of our users are verified. You can enforce cancellation policies. You can do background checks. You can edit your reservations. You can extend, cancel everything from your host dashboard. So it's really easy to track and follow. And then payments are automatically deducted. Calendars are automatically updated. And our fees are extremely low because we allow the host to collect a security deposit. People ask what makes ManyStays better. It's hard because there's different needs for everybody.
Mhm.
I'm not saying, it's hard for me to say ManyStays is better than the competition because we're ultimately different. So Airbnb, you're going to be paying extremely high fees, but you get the air cover included in that. So we went the route of having really low fees, but we allow the host to collect a security deposit. So that's their protection of any damages. So we wanted to put the power back into the hands of the consumers and not be that third party that steps in and says, we're going to give you this much money because that's what we think your claim is worth. And then nobody's happy in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to put the power back into the user's hands. We feel like that's a better solution, but some people might just want the comfort of knowing that an Airbnb or a company is going to step in and do that. And we have discussed a potential for an optional insurance coverage. So in lieu of the security deposit, a guest can have the option to select like traveler's insurance. So then they don't have to pay the upfront refundable security deposit. They can pay a lower insurance fee and then that'll act as like an air cover. for the guests.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, I like that. I require like renter's insurance because if something happens to my guest stuff, I don't cover that. So that's just, I think insurance is really important. And I love that you're
Mm.
thinking about like the background credit check and all that stuff because typically in Airbnb, our vetting is do they have good reviews? There's not a whole lot of vetting. And if it's direct booking, I have like a full on application, right? So I like that you're actually
Right.
including that because I think that's really important.
That's the other side of it with Airbnb. You can't. It's really hard to take people off platform and do a, s- a background check or a lease agreement or something before they book. So you're really relying on Airbnb to do that. So on many stays, you can run your background check, you can do your lease agreement, you can vet the tenant thoroughly before you decide to commit to having them. And especially with longer stays, you want to avoid any squatters. You want to make sure they are who they are. And if you're dealing with nurses or people with a contract or insurance agencies, you feel a lot more secure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's even I know nurses are highly vetted and I get that, but I feel like that's it's so important to vet guests and make sure you have to think like a bank. You have to make sure they're financially responsible. And so I love that you're including that. I'm curious on the leases. I'm in a very like landlord unfriendly place, right? Every there and it's down to the county specific. Are you able to use your own lease if you have a very specific lease like local to your area, or do you have to use like what's included in many stays?
You can certainly use your own lease.
Okay.
So in We have Messenger on our platform. So if a guest inquires on your property, it goes to Messenger and you can ask any questions you want. You can send attachments. You can exchange your email address. So right now we don't have the on Airbnb. If you try to give somebody your email address, it's going to instantly block you. So
Mhm.
we're operating on a very like trust basis right now, where somebody reaches out to you and they want to book through the ManyStays platform. We're working on trust right now, and it's been working pretty well because we have low fees. There's no reason to really take it off platform based on all the
Mhm.
tools that we have. So we have all of the tools that you need. Why would you take it off platform if you're already paying a low fee? And then you can
Mhm.
track all your reservations right there. Because I know a lot of times with midterm rental operators, they find their leads on Furnished Finder, then they have to have full systems in place on multiple different websites, one to do background checks, one to do lease agreements, one to collect payments, and having all of that in one play, there's no reason to really take it off. So that's why we're operating on a trust basis right now.
So just to clarify, because I'm in a very litigious place, if I would keep the booking online, I could use my own lease though, but keep the booking online. That's cool with the within the platform. Okay. Is that okay, okay.
Yep.
It's a very tricky place that I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that.
Right now, we
It's a
don't
di
have lease
Mhm.
agreements directly on our website. We have our terms and
Okay,
conditions, which you're agreeing to.
okay.
So it outlines essentially like a lease agreement, but we do eventually want to implement actual lease agreements that will be state specific, that will automatically pull in all the reservation data. And then the host can edit any other specific details like take out trash or when to clean it or how to take care of the property where they can edit it. So that's something we plan on rolling out in a couple of months, most likely. But of course, you don't have to. We won't make you have to use that mini stays lease agreement. You can still supply your own if that's what you're comfortable with.
Okay, yeah. No, I think it's really it depends on where you are and what the laws are like, so know your landlord-tenant law because we are in landlord-tenant law. Okay, that's all. I love that because I think, yeah, that when I first found Furnish Finder, it was probably 4 years ago, I didn't know if it was real.
Yeah, yeah, and
Legit,
then you
like
go on their site too, and like I told my mom about it because she always wanted to do the whole snowbird thing and go to Florida in the winters and stuff. And I told her I can check out Furnish Finder, see if you can find a place. And she was just like over her head. What is this? How do I find a property? How do I contact a property? She did the inquiry, like the what is it? The request thing. She put a
Mhm.
request out there for Fort Myers on this timeline, and she was just having like hundreds of people reach out to her and none of them like matched what she was looking for. And she wanted a whole house or a whole place, and a lot of people were sending her rooms. So that can be overwhelming if a guest is looking for a place. And she also, when she first went to the site, it says travel nurses all over the page. She's like, is this just for travel nurses? So that's
Mhm.
another thing is they don't do a great job. I know they're trying to expand to like different diverse traveler pool, but I think still right now, last I checked, I'm always checking out competitors. So On the first
Mhm.
page of their website, it mentions travel nurses 17 times. So I
Interesting.
looked at that and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Hey, they mentioned travel nurses 17 times. They don't mention any other type of traveler." So a lot of
Mhm.
times when people aren't a travel nurse and they go to Furnished Finder, they go off right away because they think it's just for travel nurses.
Interesting. Yeah, I have to dispel that myth too, or people just think MTRs are just travel nurses. I'm like, no, there's a whole wide avatar there. It's a very big, that's what people think. So interesting. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So mini stays. So your vision is it to be like, what's the vision of it? Like be the go-to MTR platform or?
Yeah, our vision is to be the go-to source and be a household name for midterm rentals. And that's the other thing is becoming a household name. Like right now, if you asked anybody, where would you go for a stay 30 days or longer? If you were looking to go somewhere this winter and stay there for 3 months, where are you going to look? And nobody really has a clear answer to that. They're like, I might check out Airbnb or something. But people that aren't familiar with the space, they've never heard of Furnished Finder. So
Mhm.
becoming a household name, I think is really important. And for long-term vision, yeah, I want to steal all of Airbnb's and Furnished Finder's market share. That's the long-term vision. And I think we have the ability to do that because there's nobody that's really implementing everything that hosts and guests want to see in the space. And I feel like we're doing a really good job at doing that.
Yeah, I like that you're taking in the guest perspective too, right? 'Cause I've heard that a lot when I talk to leads. Like they're like, "Oh, you called me." I'm like, "Yeah, I call." There's communication is very difficult. I think with especially not all operators are professional.
Right.
And so I'm curious about like your name and that big vision. My background's marketing. So did you do a lot of research or was Many Stays just like, how did you land on that? It's a clever name.
On the name,
Yeah.
process of elimination and availability. Because I, and we're from Minneapolis. So I felt like Minneapolis, that's where our headquarters is at. I felt like it fit there. It was cool to connect those two in a way. But then based on availability and something that's catchy, I did a few idea generator things with AI and then it was cross-checking that with available domain names and available trademarks. So we got trademarked and we have our website domain. Eh, I felt like landing on ManyStays was a good fit.
Very cool. Yeah. Finding when all those stars align is tricky for sure.
And then
So
I was
yeah.
thinking of like, sorry, one more thing with the name of finding something that's a little kind of catchy and can eventually be used as like a verb, like Airbnb. Oh, I have
Mhm.
an empty property, Airbnb it. I have an Airbnb or I have an empty property, you can mini stay it. So think of it as like a verb, or if you're talking to a potential traveler, it's, oh, I want to go to Florida for 3 months. Oh, you should do a mini stay. So
I like yeah, no, that's strategic, right? Because it has become a verb, like, everyone just inherently knows what that is. Yeah, it's become
yeah.
household. So, I'm curious, I feel like when I first started, I didn't even midterm wasn't even a term that was commonly used. Do you think people know that term more, or is it getting on the I feel like it's on the map, but I'm so in it, it's hard I don't know if I have perspective on it, like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
That's something we've been navigating too. And I think hosts, whether you're short term or midterm, are definitely catching on. So from a host perspective, midterms is catching on. But I think from a guest side of things, they may not have heard of midterm yet. So that's why
Mhm.
in a lot of our marketing and blog posts and everything, we use monthly furnished rentals instead of midterm rentals. Because when I feel like when guests are looking for a midterm rental, their first place to go is on Google and they type in monthly furnished rental in New York City or wherever they're going. So yeah, I feel like from the two sides, guests, monthly furnished rentals, hosts, midterm rentals.
Interesting. Yeah, it's all about the SEO, right? Okay, that makes sense. Alright, so what are the let's talk avatars, right? Who are you going after certain niches or is this like this the go-to place or what do you find? Like there's so many like niches in midterms, right?
That's something I want to differentiate us from like Furnish Finder is we're not putting ourselves in a box, but obviously from a marketing standpoint, you need to be niche specific, especially when you're a startup, because if you're too diverse, your marketing dollars won't go as far.
Mhm.
But ultimately, our ideal customer profile is travel nurses, any other traveling professionals, snowbirds, military. digital nomads is actually the fastest growing segment or demographic. And that's been a huge catalyst because of the whole work remote movement. So there's over 17 million people just in the US that identify as digital nomads. And if you don't know what a digital nomad is, it's anybody that kind of doesn't have a permanent address. They work remote and they just bounce around every 3 months to different cities and explore new areas. They just don't have a permanent address in one state or city. And that's why midterm rentals, if you look at the analytics, it's the fastest growing segment in real estate investing because of people that work remote and can travel. They're thinking, why do I want to lock myself into a 12-month lease? I have to buy all the furniture. I'm in New York City. Winters are miserable. Or I can go to Florida for 3 months, Arizona for 3 months, and visit all my friends and stuff. And especially people that are ages 22 to 26, when they graduate college, all of their friends are living all over the country and working remote jobs. So now they can all travel together and do things together and still have roommates. So that's a very exciting demographic. And that's why I see ManyStays as not just filling a need right now for the current users. I really see ManyStays as being a catalyst to change the way that people travel and ultimately live, because I feel like people can use this as a way to live. And they're just starting to catch on of, I work remote. I can live wherever I want. So,
Yeah.
so
It
educating
kind of
them.
Yeah, I know, like, Sarah Weaver has been living, digitally for, like, years. She's, like, the author of that book. Yeah, that's super cool.
And I
Mm.
keep meeting people over. And like that New York City reference is, I actually met somebody at a brewery like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were doing they said, we've been living in New York City. We didn't want to sign a whole nother 12-month lease, and we wanted to travel before we settled down and have kids. So they've been bouncing around cities 3 months at a time. And I keep meeting more and more people that are doing just that.
I know that's an avatar. I didn't realize the stats behind it. That's super cool. That's just a great way, like, before you have to settle down and have a mortgage and all that stuff, that's super cool. So that makes me think of, I always put, like, dedicated workspace, like, what amenities are we looking at with the different, or what do you see in the most demand? Because I feel like that remote
Dedicated
work is
workspace is huge. It's yard. A lot of people travel with pets. So allowing pets in your place, that's a huge bonus because there's so many people. And like, if you don't
right.
accommodate pets, you're cutting yourself out of a lot of people that could potentially stay at your place. I had something else, but can't remember. Sorry, what was so the
Oh,
question was
yeah.
what kind
Yeah,
of
well,
amenities
so
are
yeah, like, digital nomads, right? Like, I've started to put desks even in bedrooms because 'cause I've had requests. So what are there certain amenities that you can see, like, behind the scenes or in high demand? Or I'm just curious because I feel like the other thing I love about midterm is it's not vacation-y. It's like people are to work. You don't need all the fancy Instagram walls, but there's certain
right?
things that people are looking for. So I'm curious of what you see the most, if you get searches on the
Yeah, and
most
we
from.
did a lot of digital nomads back to Minnesota too. And obviously, Minnesota, you might not think of it as like a vacation destination, but there's a lot of digital nomads that have moved to. There's one staying at one of my rentals right now. They moved to Texas a few years ago, but they still have family here in Minneapolis. So he's been here for 6 months visiting family, visiting his parents, friends. So having a dedicated workspace for him has been important because he works remote. Um, and then it also comes down to what demographic are you looking for? If I talked to a few people that do a lot with insurance companies, and they might, there's a larger market for people that might need ADA accessible, handicap
Mhm.
accessible, no stairs, ramps, wider hallways, all of that. It kind of depends on who your target market is and where you're located.
Totally. Yeah, I'm seeing a rise in the ADA stuff too, so yeah, totally. Okay,
Yeah, that was a request by a few people that do a lot with insurance companies of having that filter on our platform, and they said that Airbnb doesn't have that filter, Furnished Finder doesn't have that filter. They get insurance requests that they need no stairs. They can't search for it, so they have to look through every picture to find out if there's stairs.
yeah, and I get requests for a bedroom on the primary main level and stuff like that too. That's interesting, yeah. Okay. Alright, so we covered avatars. So, how are you guys, like, marketing yourselves? Or are you trying to network with, like, insurance companies, or what's your, like, game plan to get in roads with all these different
Yeah,
avatars?
that's a good question, and that's one that I think every host wants to know most about is okay, if I list on your platform, how are you going to market it to travelers? So we have a very extensive marketing plan. So I'll just give a brief overview. We're doing all the obvious of every social media platform, paid and organic, SEO and Google search, paid and organic. We have a Facebook group that we purchased a few months ago that it started out in 2014. It was dedicated around travel nurse housing. It was the first ever Facebook group for travel nurse housing. We purchased it from the original owner a few months ago. We converted it to a uh, housing group for anybody. So we opened it up beyond travel nurses, and it has over 106,000 members in there, anywhere from guests, hosts, placement specialists, travel agencies, the whole thing. We've been utilizing that to spread the word, and then networking and building relationships with staffing agencies, insurance companies, and universities.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you could give someone a tip, this is like a leading question, but I know we talked before about photographs and marketing and positioning. What are some of the things that you'd recommend of, hey, if you're going to list, like do these things, these are like critical.
Pictures, get professional staging, get second opinions from family or friends. Like, how does this room look? Use colors, get new furniture. Don't get everything off of Craigslist. You can find deals on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, which I've done because I've found furniture from somebody that's leaving the country and she's selling her entire apartment. And I bought the whole apartment of furniture because it looked nice. So, furniture, staging, have a thorough description, make sure it stands out how many beds and baths they have, and local amenities. And from a travel nurse perspective, they don't, this is a different market than vacationers. So being close to certain like city attractions may not be as important as like how far are you from the grocery store, the gas station, things that they need to live, like a gym or something like that. Because they're staying there for 3 months, they're just trying to live their life. They don't have time to go party or hang out at the beach or do things. So they're looking for more like, what are things that that are useful that I can use?
That makes sense. Yeah, I feel like when you're positioning yourself, it's not about vacation. It's about like just being comfortable and having like things like that. So yeah, I love that. And I think
Obviously,
photographs are
those things are nice. If you're 5 minutes,
right,
don't hide that
right,
either. So
right. Yeah, photographs though, man. And I know I asked you this before that how you're like kind of prioritizing listings, and if you can explain that again, because I loved your answer. So, um,
yeah, so our algorithm picks up on quality photos. So it can pick up on how pixelated photos are. And if they're not high quality photos, you're not going to stand out in our search results as much. And then having a complete listing, filling out your description thoroughly. If you just put one sentence, you're probably going to fall to the back. Obviously, reviews are a big one. If you have more reviews, you're going to be pushed towards the top. Filling out your location bullets, just making sure you have a complete listing will help you in our search results.
okay, that's just to answer the questions, right?
Fill it out thoroughly and you'll be fine.
Awesome. And I know that you're pulling Airbnb reviews now, right? Or you were working on it maybe, I think
Yeah,
you
so
said?
that's something really cool that we haven't talked about yet. But if you are already on Airbnb, you can transfer all of your Airbnb listings over to MiniStays in 30 seconds. And Shona, I know you did this. You had a little bit of a hiccup, but we ended up getting it resolved
Super
for you.
yeah, super easy.
Um,
Yeah,
well, all you do is you click connect with Airbnb, enter your Airbnb password, click transfer to MiniStays, and it copies over all of your listings over to MiniStays. And then you can also sync your reviews. After you transfer your listings to ManyStays, you click sync your reviews, and all of your Airbnb reviews will come over to ManyStays.
I love that. That's I think that there's no like with Airbnbs, there's a lot of software, but like with midterms, like the listing thing, there's no syndication is tricky, right? There's so many places. I love that you can just because you should be on Airbnb and you should be on many stays, so you can just sync them. So some of the things I hear a lot of questions about vacancy rate, like pricing. Do you have any? Are you going to share data on that? Because it's a really tricky thing to price. I think midterms
Yeah,
are such
that's
a range.
definitely one of our high priorities is being able to share data, and that's something I'm really excited about. But being a newer company, we don't necessarily have all that data yet. We
Totally.
just opened our site about 10, 14 days ago. We
Yeah.
had a beta phase we started our beta phase about 2 months ago, and feedback's been amazing from all of our early hosts. We've had quite a few bookings go through, and feedback's been great from both sides, the host and the guests. They love it right now. But we anticipate maybe 6 months down the line, we'll have enough data where we can start publishing some of that
Mhm.
of vacancy rates and what the supply is in a certain area and what the demand is and what the going rate is. I'm really excited to be able to roll that out.
I love that because I feel like there's a really big range. Like you go to Furnish Find, you go to Airbnb, and sometimes it's just you have to just find comps, and that's like the best way to do it. But there's no go-to kind of place to be like, okay, this is
Right.
like a range I can be in. Okay.
Yeah, and that's
Uh,
something we really saw as a valuable asset to ManyStays because there isn't a complete platform that's focused just on midterm rentals. So being able to have that data is going to be
mhm.
so valuable in our opinion. So we're excited to be able to have that.
Because I've been thinking through this. If you're doing bookings are through you actually have the numbers. Like Furnish Finder, they don't. You could be renting it for more for less. Yeah,
Furnished Finder
and
has no idea what rentals are actually renting for. If you're
mhm,
listed at $4,000 a month and then you negotiate and you actually book it for 2,500, Furnished
mhm.
Finder has no idea. So they can give you estimates on, what people are listing their property for, but it's totally different than what they're booking for.
And they have that yeah, exactly, interesting, okay, that's really exciting. So, what is some of the feedback you got? I'm curious that was like, "This is really different than my other experience," or, like, why would someone be like, clearly, I think if everyone should list with you guys," that what is some of the feedback that was like
The feedback has been overwhelmingly supportive, and it feels so good to hear the same reason why we started Mini Stays is the same feedback that we're getting from hosts and guests. And it's really been along the lines of this is the perfect combination of Furnish Finder and Airbnb. Furnish Finder is really clunky and outdated and hard to use, and you need a lot of systems in place. Airbnb is just so expensive and hard to navigate for a guest because they have to deal with weekend bookings and finding a continuous stay is really hard.
Mhm.
So they feel that the feedback has been pretty much unanimous the same of mini stays being the perfect combination between Furnish Finder and Airbnb.
I love that. Yeah, you're found all those pain points.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
God, you're
they're all the same pain points that I had when I started. And I'm building this platform based on my experience. And it just happens that everybody's having the same experience. So that's why I feel like mini stays is gonna take off. So
yeah, that's so how long did it take you to develop it? That's a pretty big, endeavor. How
yeah.
long?
So like I said, I had the idea for my very first guest 4 years ago. So it's been on my mind. And it just seemed like everybody's waiting for somebody else to do it. And like 2 years went by. Doesn't it feel like that?
Yeah, I feel like
Everybody's
there's
been
kind of
waiting
a
for somebody
race
else.
right now, and it's like my listing thing is like 50 places that you need to list on right now because
Yeah.
there's
I was
not
like,
one place.
I just hit a point where like, I can't do this anymore. I have this idea and I just would have so much regret if I just didn't try and just didn't take action. And so last year I had this goal in real estate that I wanted to become a top 2% realtor in the country. And I hit that goal. And then as soon as I hit that, I was like, all right, I'm pulling the trigger on many stays. I have to. I can't live with this regret of not trying.
Mm.
So it actually started in about last November of 2023. That's when I hired our developer team and went to work. So over the last coming up on a full year of when I first reached out to our developer team to start working on this. So it's been a really long, stressful process. I've been working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day at least. And some of my developers are in different time zones. So I'm up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, talking with them, working on different features that we want to add and making sure that this is done. We didn't want to rush it because our first projected timeline to roll out was in March. So if you think about that, we're almost in November right now. But I wanted to make sure things were done right and it had everything that we wanted. Everything worked right where you come on the platform and first impressions are everything. Yeah, we were supposed to launch in March and then I it wasn't good enough for me to roll out to the public. So we officially rolled out about 2 weeks ago. And really we expedited our rollout even because of the hurricanes on the East Coast.
Right.
And Yeah, and I feel like you were going to ask about this, but I'll just go ahead and get into it.
Mhm.
The hurricanes happened and there's just thousands of people that lost their homes that are staying in shelters. And we just felt that being a platform that's focused on monthly furnished housing, we had an opportunity to help. We did everything we could to get this out there as soon as possible. And we've actually been helping people that are living in shelters right now find housing from a lot of Airbnb hosts that had all of their reservations canceled. So now they have open properties, and we're helping match the people living in shelters with people living in the properties. And we started a nonprofit arm of our business called the ManyStays Community Project. And we started a GoFundMe. I am personally invested in this mission. This mission means a lot to me. I invested personally $5,000 of my own money. And then with some donations from other people around the country, we've actually been able to place these families in housing and pay based on the generous donations that we've received. And one of those in particular, our last one, was a father and a daughter who were living in a shelter, and they described it as 100 people living in a gymnasium on cots, and they have shared bathrooms, shared showers. And they reached out to us for housing, and we connected with an Airbnb host who had lost all of her bookings, and it was a perfect match for them. We paid on their behalf, and they were just affected by this and grateful that they finally had somewhere to stay where they can take a nice warm shower, not be rushed, and just have some return to normalcy, even though they're living in somebody else's house. It's been really heartwarming and probably one of the top 10 things I've ever done in my life.
I think ultimately in this business, we're helping people, and that's ultimately what it's about, right? Providing places for people, especially in that kind of circumstance. That's amazing. I really love that. I'll include the link in the show notes for that because I think it's a business, but it's also about people. And even especially with, like with insurance claims and there's damage to homes, families are so appreciative to be in a place, right? So
Right.
we're
And
doing
there's
a lot
still
of
thousands of
good.
people without power, and we're based in Minneapolis, so our reach is a lot of the Midwest right now.
Mhm.
And I don't think the Midwest fully grasps how devastating this has been to those communities on the East Coast. But yeah, if you have people that are watching this that are in those areas that understand how much this has affected people, sharing that would be amazing.
Yeah, no, that's really important. I think especially if you're open, let's help people, right? That's what it's all about. That's
Right.
really, and they may never go back to Airbnb after that. That's the thing.
Uh,
No, I love that. And I think we are in the hospitality business and helping people. Okay. Amazing. I really love that. So what are like some, I feel like when we're operators, we forget what are the most common questions you get? If someone's like just starting out, what would you recommend they do? Or if maybe they're switching from Airbnb, because there's a lot of questions, right? Lease terms, pet friendly, all of those things. I think it's a really great model. And it's easy to transition from short term to midterm, right? In my opinion, fairly easy.
Sorry, you cut out the last like, five.
Oh, sorry. I think I just someone that maybe I think someone just is maybe in the Airbnb space is tired of the turnover, the regulations changing constantly. I think it's an easy transition to go to midterm. So how would you like how would you guide someone on that? Or like with mini stays especially, what would you say? Like how could you help them with that?
Yeah, and I know short term has taken quite a hit over the last couple of years with either city restrictions or the slowdown, the economy going down, people not traveling as much. But what's really cool about midterm rentals is there's a huge pool of people that need midterm housing. And then there's a huge and growing population of people that want midterm housing, like the digital nomads. So it's a perfect combination of that. And then whether you want to switch from short term rental to midterm rental or long term rental depends on your preferences. Like we talked about, if you're an Airbnb operator, you're doing weekend stays, you have weekly turnovers, it's a lot of work. You might not be getting filled as much as you'd like, and revenue might be down. Whereas midterm rental is the perfect combination of, okay, I got somebody in there for 3 months, they pay a healthy amount of rent. It might not be as much as I was getting as an Airbnb, but the work is way less. They take good care of the property. They're not partying. I don't have to worry about neighbors anymore complaining about noise. So there's a lot of benefits to both, I think. It's another thing of a situation of I don't know if ManyStays is necessarily better than some of these other platforms, but it's different. And I think we do a
Mhm.
good job of making it better. Similar with midterm rentals. You might feel that the revenue is more important and better as a short-term rental, but I'm team midterm.
Totally. Yeah. No, me too. I would never go back to short term. I'd
Yeah.
have to,
We still
yeah.
have one short term, but it's location dependent. We have a
Mhm.
cabin up north that we Airbnb that wouldn't make sense as a midterm rental. So it's really location dependent on which route you want to go to.
Yeah, that's the thing about real estate and just knowing your exit strategies and what makes sense, right? There's so many options. Okay. I kinda wanna go back to developing the website and the platform, like, what were your ta that's pretty daunting. You have this idea, right? But going from an idea to implementing it to marketing it, that's, like, a huge process, and is this your first time kinda developing something like this? Like, it's impressive.
Yeah, being in real estate for the last 10 years, I've always been, on my own. I was never part of a real estate team. So I was a 100% independent realtor. So I had to build my own business from scratch. And same with going into rental properties. But this is my first time building. So it has been extremely daunting. And similar to when I first found out about midterm rentals, I didn't know where to look. So I started Googling stuff and going on chat forums. And so when I was ready to start build a website, I Googled, how do I build a website? So it was just step by step. And I've just learned so much throughout this process. It's been exhausting and stressful, but it's also been one of the most rewarding. And I love learning new things. Being able to learn throughout this process has been really awesome. Yeah, when you just handle the challenges as they come. And
Mhm.
when we started out as looking into, all right, who are we going to hire as developers? And then vetting a few people and pulling the trigger and then going through the process and, all right, and then testing all the bugs and tweaks and adding features. It's just, you just handle it as they come. And if your why is strong enough, then you're going to figure out a way to make it work. And I felt strongly enough about this where I was going to do whatever it takes.
That's so true, right? Yeah. No, if you're why, because those little bumps in the road. So were you like your beta tester, were you able to use it with your own guests as you were going
Hmm.
along or yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I put all my properties over, and every time somebody would reach out to me on Furnished Finder, I say, "Hey, I've been working on this new platform. Would you mind listing on or booking it through MiniStays?" And everybody's been really receptive. And some of these nurses are like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for." People are thanking me for doing this, which is awesome and flattering. Like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't cry throughout the process of some of the feedback that I've been getting from people and like why we're doing this. But yeah, these nurses are like, "Yeah, I already told everybody at the hospital about this. I love it, and it was so much easier than Furnished Finder." I, it it adds the trust and credibility of Airbnb with the focus on midterm, like Furnished Finder. Yeah,
That's yeah, that's gotta be really rewarding to get that feedback because it's a pain point, and I think it's I forget you forget the experience of the nurses or people using that because I think calendars aren't up to date, like, people aren't responsive, so it's pretty frustrating. So what are your I know you're rolling out lots of cool stuff. I feel like you just rolled out the Airbnb thing. Do you have, like, a is that how do you, like, prioritize, like, features, right? Because I imagine you get, like, requests and you're, like, always thinking of fun things or
so every time we roll out a new feature, there's some bugs and tweaks, and we have users find those bugs because everybody uses a platform differently.
Mhm,
So being able to test 100 different ways to get to a problem is we do our best in trying to do that on our own testing. But once we go
mhm.
out live, then getting that feedback from other users like yourself and you ran into that error, then okay, we need to prioritize that first. And we need to make sure that feature works 100% no matter what first before we roll out our next feature. So yeah, priorities are bugs and tweaks. And then next is rolling out a new feature.
So do you have, like, a wish list or how can you tell us anything about that? Or you is that still, like, secret or something?
I do have a wish list. I don't know how much I want to disclose yet or make it
Right.
a surprise.
Totally, that makes
Um,
sense, okay.
yeah, I have quite a backlog of things that I want to change. If you want to stay up to date, go ahead and create a profile and we'll have your email address and we'll be updating you through email, or you can follow us on any of our social platforms and you'll stay updated there too. But we'll keep it a secret for now and then we'll just keep you updating as we go.
I love it. It seems like you're on a real path though, and I think you're solving a lot of the problems that are ubiquitous, right? Like where to list, the pricing thing, you're gonna get the data, like what are the other pain points? I think vacancy rate, just that those are like the things that I hear a lot, like of people like having to get like all these different platforms for leases and rent collection. And so I think that you guys, the fact that you're including, and I love that you're doing the background check, that's part of it, or it's because I think that's so important. I think people often gloss over that stuff,
Right.
and they have bad experiences. So
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
important.
And
Um,
our focus has always been since the beginning. And if you go on our website, you can see that is user friendliness, simplicity, and having everything in one place where you don't have to leave and go to different things. So that's really been our focus. And we model that after Airbnb. If you go to Airbnb, it's easy to use. You go to their homepage and it's just properties right away, right? You know exactly what they are. If you go to ManyStays, you have properties right away and it's listed by monthly rates. So that's the other thing of if I go on Airbnb and I see a daily rate, I'm a monthly traveler. I don't have to pull out my calculator or go all the way to the checkout page to see how much I'm going to be paying. So from a monthly traveler standpoint, it's the monthly rate and you know exactly what ManyStays is and how much you're going to be paying.
that's true, yeah, because like we don't, it's monthly, not nightly, and then you're having, and there's like discounts, and it's just confusing, right? It's exactly what you to expect. Okay, that's super cool. Yeah, no, it seems like you guys are on a really a cool path, and I was really in need. So I hope that becomes the go-to platform because I'd love to tell students, hey, these days and like,
Something to
so
get
you,
something new, fresh.
yeah, totally. And I know you said you're kind of you're building relationships with traveling medical stuff. Are you getting into the insurance as well? We touched on that, but I don't think we unpacked it too much.
Yeah, that's a
Temporary
big
housing.
market that we obviously can't overlook. And that's why I've done a few meetups and group sessions with other people that focus primarily on insurance placements. So that's why we've gotten a lot of their feedback. We're going to be implementing some of the features that they've requested and want to see in a platform. So yeah, we're definitely targeting the big ones of AIL solutions and then the independent insurance agencies. Like where do they want to send their clients to look for housing? So we just want to build out those relationships and say, hey, we're here, we're a resource for you. And we want to be that go-to place for them to, tell people where to look.
Yeah, because I some calls for insurance, the families are looking, and sometimes it's a temporary housing person specialist, so it really depends, but there are oftentimes families are looking themselves.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, God, you guys are doing fun stuff. That's super cool. Anything else that we didn't cover as far as the platform or your vision or, like, how it's really easy to join, like, literally you click a button, right? And there's just no excuse not to do it because 'cause you're not charged to join, you're just charged when you get
List.
a booking.
No, I don't think so. I encourage anybody to go out and try it. And like Shona said, we are open to feedback. And like I said too, but we're open to your feedback. So if you want to go ahead and check it out, create your profile, list your property, and just let us know what you think of the process. Anything that you want to see in a platform, feel free to send it out and we'll add you to that wish list that we have going on.
And I just wanna say too, I think if you're, I like to test things, so sometimes, like, I have long terms and I've tested it, put up a listing, even if you're more focused on short term or long term and see what happens, right? I don't know, I like to do that, and I think it's a great way to test it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. I guess to wrap it up, and just everyone check it out, ministays.com, right? And you can just
Yep.
make a login. It's super easy, like really intuitive. The other thing I really appreciate was like, I feel like in all of these other sites, there's so many screens to go through with all your amenities, and it's by the bedroom, and you're just like, it's just very tedious. I appreciate the simplicity, like you said, of just getting everything in a couple screens. I feel like there weren't too many screens to get through to get your property online. That was kinda refreshing.
Yeah, that was like I said, big emphasis for us is user friendliness, simplicity, keep it simple, easy to understand, where somebody like my mom could go on there and figure out how to use it.
Oh, I
That
just thought
she's one of my main testers of if my mom could figure this out,
That's a good beta. Yeah, that's perfect. I forgot to ask, as far as messaging and communication goes, do I get like a text alert or how do you get alerted when there's like a new inquiry or whatnot?
You get a text, email, and in website notification.
Okay, perfect. Oh, and the other thing we just to call out too, I don't know if you call it instant book, but you can like request it's not instant book, right? You have
You
the
can
option.
select instant book or you can require an inquiry. Most people in this space probably want an inquiry first so they can vet the tenant,
Mhm.
but did put the option on there to instant book if you prefer that.
Okay. So I have to ask algorithm wise, I think Airbnb really prioritizes the instant book, right? Do you
Mhm.
guys prioritize that or is it neutral or
No, no,
okay.
because we're midterm friendly. So
Okay.
we understand that most midterm rental hosts will want to vet their tenants. Airbnb focuses on getting bookings as fast as possible. So they don't care if the guest is a little sketchy or they don't care if you vet the tenant. They just care that they're in your property. So that's why they promote that and force that to everybody. We just want a fair and trustworthy platform. So
Yeah, no, I love that. I see both sides of it, but I just thought of another question. Like dynamic pricing, seasonal pricing, length of stay. Is there anything like that baked in, or is it just like one price or
you can actually set your price by month.
okay. Oh, interesting. So higher seasons you can
Yep.
okay. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, very
Yeah, I
cool.
thought that
Yeah.
was important because I think Furnished Finder only has one price.
Mhm.
On ManyStays, you could set it different each month.
The other thing that sometimes I've sort of do is if you're booking 1 month versus 3 months, like, it's a little bit higher for 1 month, right? So, yeah, that's another maybe it's a feature request thing, but awesome. Okay.
That's a
Um,
conversation you can have, or you can put that in your description and then a conversation you can have with your guests. Like, I'm typically looking for a 3 month stay. If you stay for 1 month, it's going to be this. I apologize. That's what we have to do to cover our expenses. And then you can change the price.
yeah, that's typically with insurance, they start out with 1 month and they'll usually extend, but you just don't know, so you have to cover your bases, but yeah, no, I like that it's seasonal because there is I don't know if you I notice I feel like midterms are a bit seasonal, nothing like short term. Have you noticed that with yours?
Yeah. And that's location dependent too. Nobody wants to come to Minnesota in the winter, but people love it in the summer,
Right.
So yeah, rents are definitely different from April to August than they are from September to March.
That's really because 'cause I'm in the same it rains a lot in Portland, and what I do, I set my prices like the winter prices, and I forget to, like, when I have a turnover, so I love that you have that baked in, so I can just do that now so I don't forget when it when the spring comes along. Alright, so a couple kinda wrap up questions I like to ask all guests, these are open-ended. What is, like, your biggest asset in life? If like, that's a broad question, but I always like to ask.
It's a good question. It's probably the easiest question you've asked today. My biggest asset in life is definitely my wife. She's been a supporter throughout everything that I've wanted to do. I've had big ideas, I've had big ambitions, I've taken a lot of risks, and she's been there to support me through everything. Whether it was buying that first property when I was 22 years old, and we had been dating for a year or two, and my parents, her parents, or friends were like trying to advise me against it, but she was supportive through it the whole time. She was like, "I know you've done your research, you have a plan for this." So she was there living with me, and the duplex that we bought, it was in rough shape. It barely had running water. Everything was disgusting. It was a disaster, but we had to fix it up. And she supported me through that entire journey. And then the next house we bought was maybe even worse than that one. And we fixed it up and lived there. So she's been through a lot with me and supported me the whole way. So I would definitely say my wife is definitely my biggest asset.
I love that, and that's unusual. I think with real estate, a lot of times one person is bought into it, and it's risky, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's well
Yeah.
worth it.
And she's allowed me to, you know, believed in me and allowed me to take these risks. And she knows how much I believe in it, and if I believe in it, she supports it, and that's what's put us in this position for me to take this risk on many stays too, is because of our rental properties that are allowing me to take this risk. It's not as how to what do I don't have any other income coming in right now. It's from real estate because I put that on the back burner. So she is a little like stressed at times, but she believes in ManyStays and believes in what we're doing. And so she's fully supportive.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so important. All right. I love that. Okay. I then maybe we've covered the top business or life advice you give someone to live life on their own terms.
I would say you have to believe in yourself 100% in what you're doing. Surround yourself with people that believe in you. And lastly, and probably most importantly, is take action. And without those three things, it's really hard to make anything happen. And especially with taking action, I've had so many friends that have these awesome ideas and want to do all these cool things, and they're just ideas, and they never, eventually take action on it. And if you're not taking action, then it's ultimately just a dream, right? Yeah, believing in yourself, your surrounding yourself with the right people, taking action are probably my most important life goals, to live life on your own terms.
That's so true. And I think the action part, even if it's messy, right?
Yeah, and you're gonna run into challenges, you're gonna have ups and downs, you're gonna have moments of doubt, but if you believe in yourself, you believe in the vision, then every moment, whether it's a success or a challenge, it's a learning opportunity. And that's where I've gotten to many stays, and I wouldn't have been able to uh, build this to this point without having these core values of believing in myself and taking action.
Yeah, very excellent advice. All right. This one's a little bit silly, but what is your superpower?
Is that like what I want my superpower to be, or what is it currently and how I've gotten to
It's
my
like how you've used it in business, but it could be what you want it to be. It could be aspirational or what your actual, yeah, what's propelled
Okay,
you.
for what it has been for me in business is identifying opportunities and taking action. So combining a little bit of my life advice and then identifying opportunities and actually pulling the trigger, whether it was identifying the right rental property or certain businesses to go in, and then identifying the opportunity with mini stays, and everybody seemed to just be waiting for something to come along. I took action. I saw the opportunity, pulled the trigger.
Awesome. Okay. I always like to ask a book or a resource or something you'd recommend it could be life advice or bit real estate advice, anything in that level.
I think that depends on what stage in your journey you're in. If you're a new investor and just starting out, I would definitely say Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't know if you read that one, or
Mhm.
I'm sure you've at least heard of it, but that was my most light bulb moment of a book that I read. I read that when I was like 21. So it was right before I got my first rental property. And that book, if you're not familiar with it, it teaches you how to buy assets to pay for your liabilities. So I went years of sacrificing and not buying anything that, increased my lifestyle, didn't go on trips, didn't buy that new car, didn't get a new fancy job to pay for that lifestyle. So making, so it teaches you how to make sacrifices, buy an asset, which then will pay for your liability. And an example of that is after two or three rental properties, I was cash flowing enough where it would pay for a new car. So that's when I got a new car, was when I had something that would pay for it. So now it's essentially a free car.
I'm
Uh,
making my 13-year-old listen to that book.
yeah, so that's a good one. And then if you're a little bit further along, I really like the 10X rule by Grant Cardone. Teaches you how to maximize your expectations for yourself, believe in yourself. And if you think I have to produce X amount to reach my goal, okay, raise those expectations by 10 times and then go out there and do it. And set your goals 10 times higher. Like if I want to make $100,000 next year, raise that to $1 million. I want to make $1 million next year. And if you raise that bar, even if I fall short, it's probably higher than if I set my goal at $100,000.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to fail at a higher goal, because it'll still be higher than a lower goal that you would set for yourself. So that's why I really like that book.
You covered all the yeah, I love it. That's a classic book too. I've read both of those. I love it. Okay, last question. How can people find you, reach out to you, get on mini stays, all that good stuff?
I'm on all social media platforms. So if you search my name, if you Google my name, Jon Wolf Real Estate Minneapolis, I'm sure all of my social media will pop up. You can search ManyStays and my information will pop up. Yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of those. My
Perfect.
email
And
is johnwolf@ministays.com. If you have any questions, throw that out there.
awesome. And then just ministays.com to go list your property.
Ministays.com. Yep.
And it's literally like a couple minutes, right? If you have an Airbnb, it's so simple. I feel like there's
To
no
list it.
excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, something else really cool that I keep forgetting to call out. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but we have a really cool chat support on our website, and it's
Okay.
AI chat support. So it's really cool because it can read our entire site. It can read all of our blog posts. And then if you ask it a question, what is midterm rentals? How much are your fees? Any questions about the website or how this works? How do I list a property? Our chatbot will be able to answer those. And if it can't answer those, you can request to speak to a live person and you'll get passed on to a live chat person. So that's right on our platform. A lot of people have used it and it's been really helpful.
That's awesome. Gotta love AI. It's like magic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really
Awesome.
awesome, especially for a lean startup that we need to
Yeah.
maximize all of our dollars, and having something like that to alleviate some of our customer support is helpful.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Thank you for taking the time. It's been really fun. Everyone go sign up for mini stays. Like no excuses. You guys are going places. So I appreciate it. This was really fun. I'm
Thank
excited. Yeah, no problem. All right. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right.